Hey now, what you're about to hear is a free preview of one of this week's premium episodes of The Dumb Zone. If you would like to hear this program in full with the archive of all of our past episodes, you can subscribe at dumbzone.com.
We need like an interstitial.
Okay.
From the wonderful world of sports, Radio Sports Scoreboard.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
So last night I saw that...
there we go. I thought we had one.
Dumb Zone Interstitial.
Gotta keep them separated.
Any others? Game show music? Why? So I saw Dana White issuing an apology. There's more, okay?
It's just louder.
Now I feel like he's just patronizing me.
You did ask for it.
Dana White was given a press conference last night. I believe this was the post game for one of his slap competitions, which are apparently really still a thing.
That still goes on?
Yeah.
A slapping contest.
And the funny thing is,
And it's dudes, right?
They do both.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I think they put the women in bikinis for some reason.
Huh.
What do you mean for some reason?
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm there for the slapping.
A purist. The funny thing about this, I cut it off, but he starts the press conference, and he just goes down. He reads a few things like you have to PR-wise, and it's like, all right, such and such. He was medevac to the hospital. Such and such. He left in an ambulance. It's like, is this on a normal event? But then
It's like the coach getting handed the stats.
yeah. Dion.
Yeah, right.
Our graduation rate today is.
Yeah.
So I actually saw this response from Dana White before I knew what he was talking about. And I think that would be a fun way for us to...
That's how I found out about Justin Tucker.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet that said the Browns had traded 3 first-round picks for him, and I thought, what on earth happened?
So we'll play the What Are We Apologizing For game. And many people pointed out that as Dana White is talking here about World War II, he starts ticking off statistics like he's discussing an upcoming pay-per-view.
I've heard a lot of dumb, ignorant shit in my day, but this one's probably the worst. When you talk about Hitler.
Whoa! That's out of nowhere.
So he has to say when you talk about Hitler because one of his fighters on his podcast did.
When you talk about Hitler, he's responsible for the death of 6 million Jews, and he tried to completely eliminate a race of people. World War II was the deadliest war in history. 15 million military deaths, 45 million civilians.
Like, doesn't it sound like he's doing streaming numbers?
Yeah.
It's like on Netflix, we had 64 million across the globe.
And 25 million soldiers were killed in World War II.
I think the number's higher than that, isn't it? Okay.
Second of all, Hitler is one of the most disgusting and evil human beings to ever walk the face of the earth. And anyone that even tries to take an opposing position is a moron.
Okay. No, it doesn't seem to be a lot to argue here.
Why are you staring at Dan?
That's the problem with the internet and social media. You provide a platform for a lot of dumb, ignorant people. We've obviously reached out to Bryce, and when we read what he said and let him know how we feel about it, we're beyond disgusted. So for those of you that don't know what's going on, good, you're lucky. For those of you that do, that's what I have to say about it.
Okay.
Yeah, what'd he say?
Let's find out. So I went to this podcast.
I was going to say, too, plus when you read something, sometimes that feels different.
Sure.
You actually listen to it?
Sure. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt here.
Okay.
This is called
What's the name of the podcast?
Arkansanity, like Arkansas, but sanity.
Okay, cool.
And it's him, it's another guy. They're in what appear to be like a big garage, like a really nice decked out garage. It's turned into a studio, but there's a Razorback flag on the wall. It's about an hour-long show. There's a lot of camo being worn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, vibes are definitely on point.
Sounds UFC-ish.
It does. Now, this individual in particular, Bryce Mitchell, he looks exactly like you think he does, right? Like, he's a pretty country-looking white boy. He doesn't look smart, but then again, neither do I. He just doesn't look like a guy that you're like, all right, well, tell me about how science works.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he does have a methy vibe. That's a good way to put it. So let's see when he gets himself in trouble here, because I did listen to about 40 minutes of this hour and 20-minute podcast, and it's great. Let's start here.
What are we talking?
Oh, we're going like PTI style. We're running down a list of topics.
Okay. And then you told me about the threes being like a sacred thing in the
Three's
Bible.
a holy number.
Yeah.
Three's a holy number.
All right, we're going to get a lot of numerology in here.
Okay.
Just so you know. We'll give you a little taste off the top.
Okay.
And then you told me about the threes being like a sacred thing in the
Three's
Bible.
a holy number.
That's the guy.
Three's a holy number.
But the water
a little bit of Grego
example, and if God did make the universe, it's just like, it's like, hey, and it got Bill Maher. He was like, he got me on that one because it caught him off guard.
Yeah.
And respect to even if you don't believe in the Bible, you can go, oh, you know what? Well, like, that's interesting.
There's
some
a trinity within the water.
A correlation there. And then the threes in the Bible, and everything's 3 days. He rose in 3 days. And there's so many examples.
It's played over and over. 3. It's a holy number. And so
okay, so that's what we're getting into here is like biblical literalism. It's pretty standard. This is probably like the weirdest version of any religion to me is when you read a book that was written a long time ago and you're like, I believe exactly what this says happened exactly like they say it did. So he's doing that. Which is how he finds himself talking about this.
In which nothing else from that period do we say, hey, they were doing it perfectly then. Like, everything else has advanced, or, it's not like, hey, this is how they used to treat if you got sick. You don't go, oh, yeah, they knew it.
They do still use leeches, though.
They do still use
leeches. But I just think, for the most part, modern religion, you're looking at your text and being like, oh, that means this.
Well, yeah, now
these
it's
are stories,
symbolic.
Right. But that's not what Bryce is doing. Ergo,
why the Bible is a flat earth document and the importance of the flat earth document, because public education, which is owned by the devil, has pushed this globe theory, this heliocentrism on us, when the Bible quite literally says the sun moves around us. Well, and I know that it does. The Bible says so, and I know it. But if you're a Christian and you don't believe that, that's all right. You'll still go to heaven. You just don't understand God's creation to the extent that somebody that reads the Bible literally does.
Is this a UFC podcast? What is this? What do they usually talk about here?
I can't tell you.
Okay.
It does appear that they cover all the hot topics. And as you're going to see, we're working towards just talking about the new world under Trump. This guy's not an Elon fan either, because he thinks Elon's like a new world order elitist, and he's got opinions about certain ethnic groups you're going to hear. You might have inferred that from Dana White's comments. But so far, he's not really in trouble. He's just continuing with like really literal biblical things, like the Earth is flat. Or this.
There is so much evidence on Giants, brother, that we would have to do a whole
Wait, on
podcast.
What?
Yeah, you heard him right.
Giants?
Big folk. I'm talking about the big guys.
Okay.
There is so much evidence on Giants, brother, that we would have to do a whole podcast on Giants, and we will one day.
Yeah, let's do it. It'll
Because-
be interesting.
I think we can all agree that if Giants did exist, it does deserve its own episode.
Yeah.
Sure.
Especially from him.
Yeah, it's not a drive-by,
There is so much evidence on Giants, brother, that we would have to do a whole podcast on Giants, and we will one day.
Yeah, let's do it. It'll
Because
be interesting.
It'll be so interesting. So if you don't believe in Giants, you're wrong. I'm sorry, and I'll show you the evidence another day. But I believe that
Yeah, we
Giants
can't-
built them, and
yeah.
I don't know what built them, but that's just my guess. And Rollies is
Pyramids?
Yeah, we're talking pyramids, cathedrals, which I mean, look.
So it was like a Lego project, really. It wasn't that hard.
It wasn't that hard for them.
Yeah.
I don't have a great answer for the pyramids, guys. I'm not saying I'm a giant believer, but,
That's for another podcast.
A whole one, probably. But again, as you can tell here, we're still not really in trouble.
No.
Some wild stuff.
Giants are not going to have...
Nah. The earth is
UFC
flat. The
president.
Bible said it. I'm going to fast forward about 10 minutes.
Are Giants in the Bible?
Yeah, they'll reference like...
I was going to say
Goliath.
that any person that reads the Bible literally and thinks they know it on a different level than you do want to talk about the Giants.
Why wouldn't you? That's a pretty kick-ass,
the Nephilim, which was in a book that didn't make it, I think Enoch, and they think that the Giants were like angels that mated with women that created this whole nother race that was wiped out in the flood. But it's just it's too much.
He knows about the books that aren't in there.
Way too much. And there's no...
We should do a podcast on that someday.
It's just biblical conspiracy theory stuff that these types of people like to research.
Or it's stuff that even if you don't think it's a conspiracy theory, you think like, okay, there's a lesson to be learned from that. These stories. You don't say, well, fuck, what happened to the Giants?
So this is a conspiracy theorist shaking his head at these conspiracy. Like this is, you look down upon them.
Oh, well, maybe it's because I was him one day and now I whatever, but no, it's just, I say it all tracks.
Were you on board with the Giant thing at one point?
Well, I got really into researching it for sure.
16-year-old Blake?
Yeah, I was just narrating. I was narrating and 4channing and loose changing and
excellent.
Yeah, that was my.
But
high
again,
school.
not in trouble with your boss yet. If you're 16-year-old Blake or Bryce Mitchell, but now
not a big anti-giant lobby out there.
No,
yeah,
they're not going to call your radio station and get you fired.
No.
Here's what I say about him, Hitler, Helen the Nazis.
All right, so you can tell here that
we're on Elon now.
We're now getting pitches we can hit.
I really don't think that he was because I honestly think that Hitler was a good guy based upon my own research.
Okay, so as you can see here, we have two rhetorical devices being deployed at once. One is, I don't think he was hailing Hitler. The reason I don't think that is because Hitler was a good guy.
Because he doesn't like Elon.
And Elon's a bad guy.
Don't really, yeah.
Hitler, Helen the Nazis. I really don't think that he was because I honestly think that Hitler was a good guy based upon my own research, not my public education indoctrination. I really do think before Hitler got on meth, he was a guy to go fishing with.
What is this behind the music?
Dude, there's so
and
much
came
here.
the dark days.
Guy to go fishing with.
He was a guy to go fishing with. He fought for his country. He wanted to purify it by kicking the greedy Jews out that were destroying his country and turning them all into gays. They were gaying out the kids. They were queering out the women. They were queering out the dudes. They were, you know what her first tranny surgery ever was? Happened to be in Germany before Hitler took over.
Do I detect co-host is kind of late or?
Yeah, so
I
think his name is Rolly.
Like not as
for the first 10 minutes or so that we've been skipping through. That guy will kind of be like, I would say his politics are like Rogan-esque. You know, he's got some wild beliefs, but he's mostly just like, But he's
going to egg him on a little bit with the flat Earth. He wants to hear a little bit more about Giants, but it feels like he's laying back on this one.
Pretty much entirely laying back on this one.
He's lost his patience a little bit, it seems like.
Happened to be in Germany before Hitler took over. You know the books that everybody makes fun of Hitler burning? You know what the books was? Queer books.
I want that publishing line.
Queer books.
Queer books.
Hitler burned queer books because Hitler didn't want a bunch of queers destroying his nation. They can't produce children.
But what about
when he got on meth and he turned on Russia? I believe that's when he kind of went full nutty. And I don't think that he was just like the best dude ever. And when I say I go fishing with him, I'm not saying he was the most trustworthy dude or I'd love him or whatever. But at some point in Hitler's life, I don't think he was that bad of a guy. I really don't. And now, was Hitler perfect? No.
I am willing to tell you that.
Listen, is anyone?
No.
Come on.
But you want to have a beer with him?
And now, was Hitler perfect? No. But he was fighting for his people. Okay, and he wanted a pure nation with people. You know what the Jews was doing?
Go on.
They was charging interest. Christians aren't allowed to do that. Like
There's plenty of Christians charging interest everywhere on the planet
I don't.
right now.
If you need to borrow $1,000, Rolly, I give you $1,000, and you wouldn't give me $1,100 back. You'd give me 1,000 back.
Sure, between
these Jews were controlling his country, bro. They were so cold and starving. They were using their valueless money as insulation. They were stuffing dollars in.
All right, so you could tell we got a lot going on at this
It
point.
does seem like podcast host is trying to be like, hey,
I don't know,
there are banks and everything, right? It's like, but this guy's kind of rolling.
Let me skip ahead like 30 seconds or so and see where we are.
Elon is
bad to take out a whole
this guy. Okay, so this guy's like, I don't know, genocide seems on its face.
Spot and Hitler come to power, but
it's
Elon is
bad to take out a whole to put a whole race into camps.
Right, and that's what your public education will tell you, Rolly, because you believe your public education because you haven't done your own research. When you realize there's no possible way they could have burned and cremated 6 million bodies, you're going to realize that they did not. The Holocaust ain't real. What about the Bolsheviks when the Jews killed tens of millions of Christians? Oh, we don't want to talk about that.
Well, I don't know much or anything.
Well, let me tell you about the Bolsheviks.
All right, well,
I do.
So this goes on for quite some time. Now to go back to Dana White, he's obviously a meathead, possibly a domestic abuser. The video doesn't look good, so I feel weird taking his side on anything here. But I did think he kind of had an interesting point. He's very big on free speech, right? And the market will decide, basically. And that's kind of what it's always been whenever you talk about, like, oh, well, you have free speech, but you're not free from consequences. You can be fired for it if your job determines it. Dana White's calculation is that in the UFC, if people think that you suck and they hate you to the point where they don't want to watch you, you're not going to make money. But it does have, like, that added deal that he describes here.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about this business. For all of you that hate Bryce Mitchell, you get to see him hopefully get his ass whooped on global television.
Oh, so he's not firing him.
That's a great point.
No, he doesn't fire he almost doesn't fire anybody. He's
okay, so he'll still be fighting.
Yeah, because the guy asked, aren't you a little bit worried that if he's saying this stuff, if he wins, he's going to get a mic and it's going to be a little dicey? And this is how he answers it. Is like, well, I guess you'll have to pay to watch and see if somebody knocks him out.
I mean, what do you want me to say about it? You know where I am with free speech? We're disgusted by it. I think he's probably one of the dumbest, literally one of the dumbest human beings. Let's not forget that this is a guy who took a drill through his nutsack, then had to reverse it and put the drill back out of his. That's the level of stupid that we're talking about here. And I could probably go on for 10 minutes.
I looked this up just now, and apparently it was he was working with a power drill and accidentally slipped, and he had it in his pocket, a power drill. It turned on and drilled through his nuts.
All right.
Feels like that could happen to anybody. The Holocaust didn't happen thing is a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see?
This guy's an idiot, dude.
Yeah.
I went to his house. It doesn't even look like he used a level when he was hanging these paintings.
No. Everything's
and
crooked.
also, he believes in genocide. We're talking
So
about
that
an
just
odd
shows.
duck here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about here. And I could probably go on for 10 minutes talking about how dumb Bryce Mitchell is. But guess what? Bryce Mitchell has a podcast.
I believe this was episode 1.
What a way to start. But that's the world that we live in now. Dumb people who are really stupid and really ignorant can have a voice. We don't have to agree with it. We don't have to like it. I'm giving you mine and the UFC's position on what he had to say. And this is no different than things that I've said about Strickland, But I will say this. Out of all the dumb, ignorant shit I've heard in my life, this has to be the dumbest and most ignorant.
Last thing from me on this. When you spoke to Bryce about it and said, this is disgusting, did he have any sort of I was just talking, or did he walk it back at all?
His thing was, I'm sorry if I put you guys in any position and,
But not sorry for saying.
He's stupid. He's dumb. You can't fix dumb people.
He talks about this a little more, but I think that's an interesting point. These people keep asking him, well, what are you going to say to him? He's like, this guy's a fucking moron. What do you think I can say to him? he's not going to suddenly get it.
Yeah. No, he did his own research.
He's a 25-year-old who gets punched in the head for a living on a podcast called Arkansanity. That's my UFC segment for the week.
Dang.
Yay. Weekly.
The Dumb Zone.